So we're getting down to some of the nitty gritty. I have the chain cover here that was powder coated with the rest of the bike. In assembling it though, there's an issue with the way that it fits over the Life-In motor casing. You can actually see here in the 1976 bike the way that I dealt with it, that I actually cut out the fender or the protector a little bit, but I didn't do a great job. The shape isn't, I'm not sure if it was a measurement issue, but the shape wasn't nearly as accurate as I wanted it to be. So this time, instead of mounting it flush like I have here and cutting it out, I'm just going to use some standoffs to back it off just a bit so that it can actually sit just on the outside of the case without having to do any cutting. So I bought these spacers from Ace Hardware. So here's a standoff assembly to have it then fit the outside contour of the Life-In casing here. There's an additional hole here, and actually the Life-In motor, I won't be able to see with this camera, but the Life-In motor has another hole to mate up with this. So I'm going to actually try to get one more standoff and see if I can't have it bolted there as well, because that'd be a pretty clean setup if I could get all that fixed. Here's the completed chain guard assembly that I installed, and I ended up making a slight tweak here. I ended up using 1/2-inch spacers instead of the original 3/4 spacers that I used, which left me just enough clearance here over the Life-In engine casing. And then down here I used another M6 bolt. This one was about twice as long, that actually connects into the Life-In motor. Can't see it from this angle, but there's actually an M6 threaded area on the other side of the Life-In motor, I think specifically to accept this because it lined up perfectly. I've got the OEM Honda grab bar installed, just using M6 bolts. I have stainless steel hardware here. I don't think I'll actually be using this for anything, maybe moving it around the garage, but just wanted to aesthetically complete that look. So here's the exhaust I purchased for the bike. This is one of the less expensive options. I think it was only about $50 off of eBay, and it was the same exhaust that I put on the 1976 bike. I was hoping that it was a problem with the exhaust that I had on the other bike, but it turns out it's just the way that it fits, that the slotted hole here, and it's an oval shape so that it can potentially fit different sized options, doesn't quite fit. So you can see here how I marked out the additional area that I need to file out to make it fit. You can see on this side of the bike how it's supposed to fit. I don't believe it's going to actually make use of this mounting post here like the original one did, but it comes out of the exhaust manifold here and up, and then this aftermarket version of the exhaust mounts to this bolt here. But when I line it up, it's just barely not long enough to fit onto here, so I'm going to file it off so that it fits correctly. I think it has to do, or may have to do, with the fact that the Life-In engine is a little bit longer than the OEM engine. So after a few minutes of filing with a round file, this is what I was able to come up with, and I'm pretty pleased with the results. You can see that it fits on cleanly without it damaging any of the threads as it goes on, so there's just a little bit of extra room there. I only had to go about half as far as I had drawn out there, but I test fitted it first, and I have a couple mils of space to play with. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up the rest of this filing job, and then put a light coat again of that barbecue spray paint that matches this matte finish pretty well. Then I'll be able to tighten it all down on the bike. I've got the cable holder from the 1976 bike that I didn't use there, so I'm going to go ahead and put it on this 70 bike here. I bought a couple of 5mm stainless steel Phillips head screws to secure it in place. Here's the reproduction exhaust guard from CHP. They do a really good job on the chroming, and this piece looks fantastic. So this also just goes on with a couple of 10mm bolts also that I have in stainless steel. And I said 10mm bolts. I meant that they were M6 bolts. They have a 10mm socket head, but that looks pretty good. And here's the rear taillight assembly, also from CHP reproduction, but the quality is fantastic. We're just going to get this mounted here on the bike like this. And I ordered the grommet kit that they offered to use all of the OEM, to use the correct grommets and spacers required to fix it to the bike. I then finally have this reproduction tail light that I'm going to get on the bike. I bought this 12-volt horn off of Amazon. I think it was only about $8 or $9. It has the 2 holes that line up neatly with the 2 holes on the original horn mount. So I've got 2 M6 bolts and nylon nuts that I'm just going to go ahead and use to mount that there. It mounted very cleanly to the bracket using the 2 M6 bolts with nylon lock nuts on the back. I have the 2 wires coming here and then back into the headlight bucket. And a very clean solution for a 12-volt horn. So with that, I think this bike is complete. And it's dark out tonight, but tomorrow we're going to go for the first ride. So after several months, I'm finally ready for the first ride. I actually rode the 1976 bike to work today. That was probably the longest that I've ever rode it in a single ride, about 14 miles one way, so 28 miles round trip, and it actually performed like a champ. So I know we started this project several months ago. We got the engine started. I'm sure it'll run fine, but here we go. Alright, so I got one more video that I'm going to put together for a final overview of the build, show the final touches. I still need to get the headlight in and get some of the wiring finished up. But overall, real happy with the way that the bike has come together. That first ride went pretty smoothly. I had some problems with the clutch adjustment. I need to make some changes there to make sure that I can get it into neutral. And then I'll do a video montage of all of the elements that we saw throughout the build series. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Really appreciate the views and likes and subscribes.